You see, guys, one thing that many of us, of you, of those that do analysis, don't understand is that the United Nations is a joke. It's something that people should be laughing about, okay? It was one of these Bretton Woods institutions created by the USA after the Second World War. And the main purpose was to avoid another world war. And they call it World War, although it happened in Europe and then parts of Asia. But obviously, they took a lot of resources from the colonies. So they got pretty much everybody involved, okay? There was conflict as well in some of the colonies, like in Northern Africa. The Germans went all the way there, okay? They call it a world war, but it was another European war. So they created this organization to avoid wars, not just in Europe, but all over the world. An organization which is supported by most, if not all of the countries in this world, okay? They have a charter which was created by, obviously, the United States and at the time, the Soviet Union. Both, they have an input, completely different. One, it was more towards capitalism, and the other one was more towards socialism, okay? So if you read the charter and you understand who put what, you see that the Soviet Union was more humane than the American. The American was more about personal rights, okay, and the rights of the countries, etc., okay, which is necessary for capitalism. If there is no rights to own something, capitalism cannot exist. Simple as that. So now we have this organization which has the purpose of avoiding wars, of getting involved when there are wars in order to stop the war and get both sides of the war to find a solution. They have been caught in the Congo many times. The UN representative, these are the blue helmets, they have been caught in the Congo stealing resources in UN cars. One of them was turned over by the population because they caught them stealing gold from the Congo. Not only that, every time there is a war, which is orchestrated by the European nations, although there is a Security Council where there are permanent members, some of the permanent members vote against whatever the other member is doing. In this case, the United States. You have the war in Iraq, you have the war in Afghanistan, you have the bombing of Libya, and you have many other conflicts where mainly Russia, China, they have opposed whatever the US, France, and the UK were planning against a specific country. So the UN has done absolutely nothing for many conflicts. It has no power because it's a supranational institution, okay, that pretty much relies on the contributions of its members, okay? Some people might say it's an international institution, okay? It depends on the way you see it. But it heavily depends on the money provided by the members. One of the biggest donors is the United States. And they created it, okay? They put the most of the money, and that's why they get away with many things. Not only the United States, but other Western countries as well. What's happening in the Congo today is a humanitarian crisis. The UN talks a lot, just like the Congolese government. They talk a lot, but they're not doing actually nothing. They're not forcing the members of the UN, mainly the Security Council members, which have the military power and the economic means to stop this war. They're not forcing them. They're not even asking them to intervene in a military way to stop the Rwandan incursion into the eastern part of the Congo. So when you have an organization like this that has a purpose, that it seems like it functions, but it's not doing its job, what's the point of having such organization? What's the point of calling out this organization every time there is a conflict and asking them for support? That's for the Congolese government. What's the point of continue to mention international law when this doesn't exist at all? International law doesn't exist. From the very day it was thought about or it was created, it does not exist. How many times it has been violated by the same countries that later criticize other countries for what they think was a violation of international law? And I'm not going to give the name of the countries, but you know exactly the ones I'm referring to. Okay? So the international law only applies when certain countries that are powerless, mainly African countries that are powerless, yeah, they managed to get the ICC, okay, to get these individuals and put them in jail. And the majority of them that have been judged through the ICC are like black Africans, except from some Eastern, I think, Yugoslav individual, okay? So, you see what I mean here? Like, you have international law, it doesn't exist. There's a rule-based order. And this is what the United States, Anthony Blinken, he keeps saying that, okay? A rule-based order, which is the rules, the laws that create the order, which is based on what the United States think is the way the international community should act, which is in agreement with the American foreign policy. In this case, in the Congo, there is a heavy exploitation of its natural resources, and there is continuous death of the population in the eastern part of the Congo, okay? There is complicity from both sides, okay? From all the sides, in fact. But the people are suffering. I know as part of history, conflicts have always happened. One country attacking another, one population attacking another has always happened, and that will never end. But it's no point being such an hypocrite as to have these international institutions or organizations talk about international law and study about international law, okay, when this is not applicable in reality. So that's why when I make my videos, I don't put faith whatsoever in the UN, in international law, or even in the national law, because there are many people that just, although many rely on it and they find justice through it, many people or many countries, they will never find justice when they're trying to apply the international law. Because after all, if you study international relations and international politics and history like I did, you will understand that the international system is anarchic. There's anarchy everywhere. There's not a police state. There's not a state that is higher than others that can control the action or, let's say, try to mitigate the action of another state or to punish another state for the actions. There's no such things. And there's nothing above the states, which means that the states, they rely on the power, economic power, military power, in order to take actions against another states. And this is exactly what's happening between Rwanda and the Congo. Although Congo has a larger population, it's getting less support and is poorer than Rwanda if you compare it per capita, okay? Therefore, they cannot fight Rwanda at this point. But if they decide to do it, and they decide to get into agreement with specific countries that they will be able to support them militarily and economically, they will be able to stop this conflict once and forever. And this conflict is painful for me because that's where we are from, okay? And what is happening is basically making us really sad, and we want a solution for it. And although we don't live there at the moment, we have family there. And we don't want them to go through this because there's a politician here, wherever in Europe, there's another one in Africa and Rwanda that they have decided that they want to exploit the minerals of this country and they don't want to pay the fair price in the international market for it. They rather get a country that steals those resources and they sell them cheap in the international market and they benefit that country more than the country that actually own those resources. So I just wanted to share this with you because I've been thinking about it. I'll continue informing you.